Meteorologist Tucker Antico here with a weather update as we continue to track our winter storm. Wanted to bring to you some of the latest snowfall totals that I've received, and as you can tell, we actually have some decent amounts out there already. Parts of western Mass in the 2 to 2.5 inch range. Springfield representing out there. Waltham, north of the city, 2 inches. Pretty good up there as well. And then we have amounts in the central part of the state, around the Worcester area, that are sitting around 1.5 inches. Very uniform. And I just measured outside our studios here in Dedham. Got about 1.25 inches. So we're doing pretty well across the board, of at least 1 inch in most places. But I'll say right now, if any of you guys are on the South Shore, I haven't seen any reports out of there yet except for one, and it was about 2 hours ago. So go out there and measure if you can and send me your reports, because I'm really curious how much is adding up right now south of Boston. You can just drop them in comments if you're watching this on Facebook or something. Wanted to show you our radar, though, our storm right now. How are we doing? Well, the snow is falling pretty clearly, but you can still see plenty of moisture on its way in. It's backed all the way up into central Pennsylvania, right by my alma mater, Penn State, right in the middle. So we have plenty of snow and ice and rains yet to come, and we're really getting into some of the steady stuff now, too. One of the things I noticed when I stepped outside, and you may notice this, too, if you've been looking out the window, is that our snowflakes, they've gone from more fine and grainy to just a little more puffy, and that means there's a little bit more moisture in the atmosphere where these snowflakes form, and it tells me that we're going to see it accumulate just a bit better going forward now. So this is also where road conditions and other conditions begin to deteriorate a bit more. I'll show you too, if we close in a little bit closer on Boston, some of these deeper blue colors right now across much of the Pike down onto the South Shore. We have some pretty good snowfall rates at the moment, and farther north also some moderate bursts of snow ongoing. So we're seeing, again, that radar fill in, and we're going to continue to see it fall pretty steadily until we get to about sunrise tomorrow. If you're on the South Shore or Cape and Islands, that's where amounts are going to be lessened by rain that arrives before the sun rises. South Shore around sunrise, we transition to rain. Boston area through central Mass, we're going to see a transition to sleet around then. The North Shore gets a little bit extra snow, so does southern New Hampshire. But what I want to point out is that there's also going to be some ice that falls on the North Shore before we transition to rain. So your Sunday morning, certainly you do need to take it slow. It's going to be messy. Central Mass, southern New Hampshire, those are spots that are going to be messy all day long. My concern is the ice, but not just sleet, freezing rain. You know, that icy glaze is a big concern because that'll coat roadways and really any surface outside, making it very slippery, and it's very hard to clear that because you can't just plow it out of the way like snow. It's kind of like an ice rink, and so you really should not be on the roads unless you have to be in the morning or afternoon for that matter tomorrow, because as we look at our future cast here at 1 o'clock, they're still seeing those icy roads, and that's my concern, is that this is going to last for a decent bit of the day out there. We're looking at 7 o'clock now. After sunset, still some hints that there will be freezing rain and some ice, and this could be certainly a very messy event for areas, like I said, in the Worcester Hills and the Berkshires and in southern New Hampshire, where ice doesn't really let up. You never completely transition to rain, and with temperatures that are going to be close to 32, that rain will be freezing at the ground. Total snowfall here, bump the numbers up a tad bit, just because it looks like with the snow we're getting now, we'll have a pretty uniform 3 inches across most of the area. Still waiting for some reports from the South Shore to verify, but I do believe this is going to be about what we're looking at here. It should be around 3 inches in the Scituate area down to about Marshfield. South of Marshfield, you know, Plymouth, Duxbury, those towns maybe a little under 3. Towns like Cohasset, Hingham, Weymouth, maybe you get a little bit above 3. North Shore there, Gloucester, Ipswich. I'm looking at you guys saying, I think you see about 5 inches of snow out there. Boston should be right in the middle, around 4. Worcester through western Mass, looks like we're going to see about 4 inches of snow. Could be a little closer to 5 in western Mass. Berkshires could be closer to 6 as well. But the highest totals where you're looking at 6 inches or more, that's primarily going to be in northern New England. Some of those ski resorts, we'll see up to a foot where that snow is more powdery. But as I mentioned before, the ice is more of a concern. And we don't talk about ice accumulation maps here much, simply because in New England, you know, to get freezing rain, a little science background here, you need that air to be cold near the ground. Now, we have an ocean nearby, which keeps the air a little bit milder near the ground in the wintertime, so it really washes out that ice potential. And tomorrow, that's a big reason why you don't see any ice potential at the coastline. So the ocean's your best friend. But in this situation, when we have a northerly wind, typically, you know, with storms, we get it out of the northeast, giving it the name nor'easter. But when you have that northerly wind, you're able to keep that cold air sitting near the ground, and that's what we have tomorrow. So not an unusual setup, but a little more uncommon here. And for that reason, ice is going to be a bigger concern, with up to a quarter-inch possible in the Worcester Hills through southern New Hampshire out here, and even out into the Berkshires as well. We have that potential for up to a quarter-inch of ice, may even be a little bit higher in the Berkshires, and you don't need much to make things really slippery outside. Hockey rink has ice that's 3/4 of an inch thick. So this is 1/3 of that. You know, it doesn't take that much ice to really cause some concerns and problems. So do be taking that seriously tomorrow. And I would discourage travel in the hills just because, in southern New Hampshire, it's really dangerous to drive even when there's a little bit, on treated roads. Just be careful is what I want to hammer home here. Don't want any accidents tomorrow. And it's a Sunday, so hopefully you don't have anywhere to be. That's super important. So road conditions, we talked about that. That's of high concern. But power outages and refreezing. Now this is interesting, because, we usually have big storms and power goes out and it comes back a couple days later. With this one, I don't believe we're going to see power outages tomorrow. Not at all. But once we get to the day on Monday, I'm more concerned about power outages to show up, because that's when the wind becomes a factor. It won't be too windy while the storm's going on tomorrow, but into early Monday morning and through the day Monday, wind gusts may be as high as about 50 to 60 miles per hour in those hilltops, and at least 40 miles per hour across the rest of the state. If not, I believe 40 is a very low baseline for this. It's likely to be higher than that. And that combined with the extra weight on the trees, because they're going to hold that ice a lot better than they'd hold snow, which would just blow off. With the ice on the trees, it's going to be easier for branches and limbs to go down. And though the storm is going to end Sunday night, at least in the form of rain and snow and ice, that wind is going to take the ice that's sitting on the trees, frozen on the trees, and knock some of them down, or at least branches. So power outages to the central part of the state here on Monday, a real possibility. And that includes the Berkshires as well and southern New Hampshire. So don't let your guard down even after this storm wraps up. Keep those devices charging, because you don't want a dead phone and no power to charge it. Temperatures also going to be much colder tomorrow. We get to about 40. That's in Boston. Worcester stays around 32 for reference. The rest of the week, though, we're all looking at highs in the 20s, and we may not get above freezing again until Friday, in fact. May even take longer than that. So what that says to me is even if you're on the South Shore, we're talking about impacts that'll be a bit lower, but think about it this way. You got 3 inches of snow on the ground. It's raining into the snow. That snow is acting like a sponge. Storm stops, temperatures are below freezing. What happens to all that? Well, now you have a frozen sponge, just a sheet of ice on the ground. So it's one of those storms, and as a South Shore native, I can tell you a lot of times when this happened where if we didn't clear the driveway or the steps, and it snowed and then rained a lot on top, you're looking at an inch of ice on the ground. Just as big a problem as as if you had the hose running at night when it's below freezing. Did that a few times. Used to build a rink in the backyard. It was a whole mess. But tomorrow you really need to think about cleaning before we end the day, while those temperatures are still above freezing, because it is going to be slushy and everything will be caked in ice. So that's a big piece of this storm, and something that you don't want to underestimate. It'll make your life a lot easier if you're scraping off a slush than if you're chipping out ice. So think about that. Once again, if you're measuring snow outside, you're all seeing snow, but if you're measuring snow outside, if you have any updates, please send them to us. You can send us your pictures online too. Vicky's in the morning. I know she'd love to see them and maybe put some of them on air. I'd love to see what you're seeing. I love winter weather, and I'm here in the studio. I miss a little bit of the fun stuff outside. So let me see what's out your window. And of course, if you have any questions, you can send them our way. We'll keep you updated with this storm. We'll keep you safe. And once again, enjoy the snow if you can, but do take this storm seriously, especially if you're in the central part of the state where there's going to be ice. And we'll be keeping a close eye on our next potential storm on Thursday, which actually, before we wrap this up, might as well show you what I'm looking at since we have all the time in the world here. I'm going to show you our future cast, so watch it closely. If you haven't heard, we have a storm that's approaching us on Thursday. There's been some hype on social media, not from us, but from the usual suspects, we'll say, about a big, massive storm that's going to crush New England. And right now, while there is the potential for a snowstorm, I believe this is low potential, at least with the data that I have right now. And this is a good representation of what I've been forecasting here. A storm that is strong, but misses just to our south, impacting more so the mid-Atlantic. And with this, we may get some snow south of the Pike on Thursday, but at this point, I would not be canceling plans for Thursday because of the weather. While you do need to be watching the day, and you'll want to check back with us because we'll be watching it very closely, right now, from the data that I've gotten, it looks like a glancing blow. Of course, we'll keep you updated if that changes, but watch right now. You don't need to react yet, just in case, because I've seen a lot of people asking about that. But now we'll wrap it up. So in the meantime, like I said, stay safe. Send us your pictures. Send us your reports. And of course, Vicki is going to be here tomorrow morning. We'll be on air starting at 8. You'll want to check in with her. She'll be with Kelly at the desk, and we'll keep you updated throughout the storm. I'll be on tomorrow night with a recap as things begin to move out and a look ahead at that high wind on Monday. So we'll wrap it up here. Stay safe, everyone, and have a nice Saturday night.